as co-host. Driving the day, someone who is not having a feel-good Friday, is our good old friend Sam Bankman-Fried. His trial concluded last night. Kind of shocked at how short a time it took them to come back, Mark.
Only a few hours from the moment that they went in the back room as a jury until they came out and convicted him.
All right, let's try that again.
Yeah, there you go. I get to say it twice.
Friday.
How about that? We're having all the gremlins. So,
Yeah,
hey,
you can come co-host with us, Mark, but you're not going to have a microphone turned on. Sorry about
so
that.
I'm just a pretty face in the studio. That's all I am. So.
All right, so tell me again. All right, I'm glad it's Friday, but Sam Bankman-Fried probably isn't. Tell me what your thoughts were seeing that it came back so quickly. I mean, I think people were thinking maybe it's going to take a minute.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times in criminal cases, you see quick jury verdicts when it's a conviction because it's really obvious. And it tends to take longer when they split on different charges. This case, it just seems like, I mean, they used his own words against him. I mean, and everybody who worked for him testified against him.
Yeah, and he did so many interviews right afterward, and everyone's like, be quiet. But you think, I mean, it works for Trump, right? Like, Trump talks all the time, and I'm always thinking about his lawyers, like, why is this guy talking so much when he's in so much litigation? But it never seems to bother Trump, but it really fired back against Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the first thing a lawyer tells a client in any of these cases is don't talk. And that's all he did. Trump, I think, is kind of just a unique personality. Plus, if you look at some of the things he's being charged with, I mean, they're pretty thin cases, whereas the Sam Bankman-Fried one seemed like it was an open and shut case from the start. He's stealing his client's funds.
Well, and what's next? I mean, there's all this stuff pending at the SEC. You know, of course, he donated tons of money to Democrats. I don't think we're getting that money back.
Yeah, I don't think the Democrats are going to give it back. I mean, you know, his partner or one of his main executive officers donated a whole bunch of money to Republicans. So once again, in the swamp, nobody's going to give the money back, but they're all going to be really happy to talk about how bad Sam Bankman-Fried is.
It wasn't the girl who looked like she was 15 who was like kind of his girlfriend and who turned against him.
No, it was a guy. I can't remember his name. It was a clever plot that they had. They between the two of them, they donated, I don't know, $80 or $100 million to both parties.
I just cannot wait until the movie comes out because, I mean, the details of this case and like their weird
Who's
house.
going to play who?
Yeah, who's going to have
right.
the big puffy hair?
It's going to be insane. I think it's going to be one of the best ones to watch. Hopefully they get working on that. I'm sure maybe after all this striking, they will get to work on that. Okay.
She gave a lot of people out there pause when it comes to the cryptocurrency industry. I think the people who are jumping into it with both front feet are like, whoa.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right, John. And I think still people in Missouri have a lot of trepidation about crypto. We got our first crypto lobbyist, Epen, in the state capitol. I think he was the first registered crypto lobbyist last year. And I think, you know, I still feel like I don't exactly.
From cannabis to crypto.
There you go. Fully understand. And that's one of the downsides of crypto is when it first started. A lot of times how it was being used was not in a up and up kind of way. And it still has that stigma. And we're kind of seeing, well, maybe we should have been watching a little closer.
It still is being used that way. There was an article that came out, I think it was late last week or early this week, talking about how Hamas has received hundreds of millions of dollars via cryptocurrency because they fundraise. They're banned from almost every banking system in the world, but they're not banned from cryptocurrency.
I've seen that article. And there was a crypto conference, if you will, in Jefferson City about a week or so ago with some, I don't know how many people were there, but they had one.
And you think, you know, there's been a lot of talk, and we're going to talk some today about AI and the regulation of AI, but I think really we're kind of behind the eight ball on regulation of crypto, but I suspect this will bring a renewed push for regulation of crypto. Mark, you think?
Yeah,
so?
the SEC's tried to do it. They got slapped down in at least one of the cases that they brought regarding regulating crypto. It's a question of what is it. I think people are still trying to get their arms around. Is it money? Is it banking? Is it securities? What is it? Because that depends on who regulates it. And the crypto industry fights every effort at regulation. They don't want any regulation at all. They like how it was as an underground black market thing. Now they want it to be an above ground, white, accepted thing as an alternate to currency. And sure seems to me if as a country you give up your currency, you kind of give up your power.
And the banks clearly don't, or not fans, the bankers don't clearly like this idea. So we'll see. I would expect too. You probably will see some bills filed in Jefferson City on this. I haven't seen any yet, but we'll find out in less than a month. But I'm sure it will come up.
And Mark, you bring up an interesting point about it. Well, if you're a country and you give up your currency, then, you've got problems. But then the other way that I've heard it described from libertarians is, if you live in an oppressive country where they are controlling you and they're trying to control you by control of your currency, crypto would allow people to escape some of these really terrible situations and maybe cross a border with money to start a new life and get away from their government.
Ask people in China how well that's working out for them.
Yeah.
Because the Chinese government has the great firewall, and they're not going to allow anybody to take their money out. So, I think that's a great theoretical libertarian
Unless
argument.
you're Sam Bankman-Fried and you bribe the Chinese
There you
officials
go.
to let you go.
It's a great theoretical argument, but I think from practicality, most third world countries don't have currency, and most first world countries that are oppressive have such significant and onerous internet governance that it would be very hard to take your money in and out anyway. Plus, you can't get out of the country to take it out somewhere else in the first place physically.
All right. Well, I am really excited about today's Feel Good Friday. We are all wearing red. If you haven't tuned in on Facebook or YouTube, there's a little bit of an Easter egg, which we'll get to later. But Hannah, why do we wear red on Fridays?
Well, we wear red on Fridays to remember everyone deployed, but there is one member among us this morning who is not very happy about the fact that we are supporting our soldiers. And it
wow,
is
talk about a shot.
it is Mark Ellinger.
Oh,
Mark, why are you
that's so unfair, Hannah, to say that?
Mark,
I don't
why are
like
you
wearing-
upset
I
that
don't
we're
like
wearing red?
the red this Friday only because we play Georgia tomorrow.
Oh, I gotcha.
And
You
Georgia's
know.
colors are red, and it seems like this is the biggest game of the season. It's probably the biggest Mizzou game
is.
in, if not a decade, at least in 7 or 8 years. It's the biggest game we've had. And here we all are wearing red, the Georgia Bulldog colors. It's tough. It's a tough morning putting the red on. I tell you, I do.
As
I
a
do. If
true
you're looking on
son,
Facebook,
as a
you can
true
see I do
son.
have the Mizzou shirt
Yes.
on underneath.
And you are a true son. Absolutely.
And the
Absolutely.
Mizzou coffee cup.
Absolutely. But you bring up a great point about the just so happens the colors of Georgia are red and black, obviously. Huge game. And the noise at Sanford Stadium tomorrow will just it's unbelievable. It really is. It's almost impossible to hear your signals if you're the opposing team. And a lot of teams lose because they jump off sides, things like that. But I think Mizzou has a really good shot. I really do.
It's a great stadium to go to. If you've never been there for a game, I highly recommend it. It's one of the most beautiful venues. Athens, Georgia is a beautiful, beautiful college town. But boy, you do not want to have to play there.
No.
Because God, it's a tough venue.
And they've won
Tigers ranked
35
12th in the-
straight regular season games. Pretty impressive.
12th in the
Terrific. But
rankings for
Mizzou's
the Tigers.
got a great team too.
Yep.
Yeah, John, you said we're 12th. What time's kickoff?
2:30.
2:30.
kick, yeah.
It's the CBS National Game of the Week, so it's the SEC Game of the Week, so to speak.
Can't wait. Very exciting. So we did. Hannah's laughing at me. I am excited. I am going.
You just don't sound very excited. You're like, woohoo, can't
I
wait.
will watch. No, I had an opportunity to talk to someone who's at Mizzou Law last night, and I was recalling how when I was in law school, Mizzou was like really good, and it was like so exciting to be at the university when Mizzou was ranked. And it was, the big buzz. So it was very exciting. Also, so on top of celebrating Red Friday, we are also doing something here at the Eagle and KWOS. We are saluting the troops as we approach Veterans Day. Next Saturday, we would like you to say thank you to all the veterans in your lives, dads, sons, neighbors, friends. You can write us a little note about them. There's a form posted on our website, and we are going to bring those to you over Veterans Day weekend. That is brought to you by All Seasons Roofing and All State Consultants, so thank you for that. Okay, so today we've got Scott Faughn is coming on at 7:10. A lot of times we'll talk to him on Monday, but we're inviting him to join us for a Feel Good Friday. There's a lot going on in Missouri politics. There's been some announcements, obviously. There's been some investigations, so we will get a rundown with him at 7, after 7 o'clock. And then also, I'm excited for this guest. We've got Tami Holliday.
getting closer every day. Getting closer every day.
That's Governor Sununu. Now, I feel like he's really, really liked by the young people, and it is time for your daily DC rundown. So Nikki Haley, I think she was hosting some town halls. The governor was in the room, and she just called him out. You think he knew that question was coming?
Didn't sound like it in his
I
response.
know.
I think he was quite shocked at it.
I kind of like her gumption and just saying, hey, like, when are we going to do this?
It either works and you're really impressed by it, or it backfires and he leaves that town hall going, I'm never showing up to another event with her again and I'm done with her.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, we talked earlier this week to someone about the Missouri caucus system and what you and I, when we were kind of doing the math, it's going to be Trump unless all the non-Trump people can really come together. And Sununu is kind of seen as somebody who might be bringing together, I think, the non-Trumpers. He was even, I think they were encouraging him to run for Senate and some other things. So, I mean, if he gets behind Nikki Haley and she's kind of got some momentum, you think we could narrow the race?
Yeah, I mean, if you start seeing major endorsements come in, the problem is he's not well known outside of New England.
Yeah.
He's the New Hampshire governor. It's the first primary. It's the second event because it comes after the Iowa caucuses. So that's really why it's a bigger factor. I mean, Kim Reynolds, who's the mayor or the governor of Iowa, has been, I think, at every DeSantis event that he shows up there for, but she has not technically endorsed him. So, I don't know how much that changes things. In the end, we need the other folks to drop out. We need the Tim Scotts and the Chris Christies and folks like that to get out of the race so that the race can consolidate, and then we can have a choice.
We knew when I asked Mark about Haley that he was going to mention DeSantis. We know Mark is a stan for DeSantis, and DeSantis is embattled in Bootgate right now. People are saying that he's too short and that he's wearing lifts in his shoes, and there's like slow-mos of his feet. It's really weird.
Didn't you say that you actually believe that conspiracy theory?
I 100% think he's doing that. And if I was like super short, I am super short. If I was a man and I was super short, I'd totally do it too, because I feel like it looks.
See, I think
so is that a polling
matters.
issue? So he's 5'11". Is 5'11" super short?
No.
Is that super short? I mean, that's something it seems to me that's about average height. It's really close to average height for a man.
See, as a dude, I think it looks worse for you to get busted wearing wedges
or
than
high heels
to just
or
be
something.
a little short.
Well, he did respond yesterday. I've got some audio here. He said something about, hey, now we've got some serious issues. I'm not sure why everyone's got a foot fetish all of a sudden, which I thought was good. And then he had this to say.
Divert onto other issues. I know Donald Trump and a lot of his people have been focusing on things like footwear. I'll tell you this. If Donald Trump can summon the balls to show up to the debate, I'll wear a boot on my head. This is a time for substance.
So I appreciated those comments, actually saying, look, let's quit talking about what we're wearing. Let's get down to the issues.
They're going to continue to talk about what Nikki Haley's wearing, though, just saying.
Of course they will, but she's had some really good selections, and I'll be watching what she wears. The debate's next Wednesday, so we're coming up really close on it, and it'll be exciting to watch. Do we know who's going to make the stage?
I think they've announced so far that it's obviously Trump, who will not show up, DeSantis, Haley, Tim Scott, Chris Christie.
How are those two making it?
They have, it's the threshold of donors and 3% in a poll or 5%.
We need to up
poll.
those
yeah,
things
we need to
already.
move things up.
And you'll be able to hear that debate 7 to 9 next Wednesday night on KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle.
Great. All right. Well, we've also got some news out of Congress yesterday. House Republicans approved the $14.5 billion Israel package. It's not looking good in the Senate. Two reasons. First, they're funding Israel by taking away some money from the IRA, and that includes the IRS agent money. And then also, obviously, the Democrats want some funding for Ukraine, and they are supporting Biden's original package. So it is not looking good. Now the question is, how's the Senate going to negotiate, and what might that actually look like? Would we be able to maybe get some money for the border as part of this package?
Well, the original proposal that Biden came up with included, ironically, border money, a very, very tiny, small amount of it compared to how much he was trying to send to Ukraine. Ultimately, what I think everybody would like is actually to see an up and down vote on what the House did. That's never going to happen because if you notice, there were a bunch of Democrats who actually voted for the standalone Israel aid package because they recognize there's a political liability there.
And there were 2 Republicans who voted against it. Marjorie Taylor Greene, not surprised. Thomas Massey, he had indicated he was going to vote against it. So it's a really interesting issue, and I'm with you, Mark. I think we should take a up and down vote on each of these funding issues, but I'm not holding out any hope that we're going to get there. Also, there were some senior military nominations that went through yesterday. I think 3 of them, that those had previously been held up by Tommy Tuberville over the abortion
that says you cannot celebrate Christmas this early. Number 1, it is about Jesus' birth. You can celebrate Jesus' birth all year long. Number 2, eggnog, hot apple cider, hot chocolate, glorious, lovely. Number 3, Thanksgiving. So I've heard people say that you cannot celebrate Christmas, take a break for Thanksgiving, and then go back to Christmas. But I would like to remind you that Jesus was alive, took a break for 3 days, and then went back to being alive. So I'm going to start celebrating Christmas on November 1st, take a break for Thanksgiving, and then go back into it. Ho, ho, ho!
Oh my gosh, this debate is raging on.
I'm just saying, I love Jesus enough that I can celebrate it in November.
Apparently. And so we had this debate earlier this week, and a lot of you told us that you would be putting up your tree this weekend, particularly because we've got the weekend off between youth hunting and the regular hunting season.
Well, Wake Up family member Marissa even took off work on November 1st just to take the day to set up her Christmas decorations.
And after we had that debate, I go home, and that evening, my neighbors, who I think are trolling me, had their Christmas lights not only up, but on the outside of their house. And so I'm wondering, where do you all draw the line? Because if you're watching on the YouTube, I have this lovely, very loud fa la 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 Christmas sweater. So if it's okay to have your tree up, and I expected you all to look at me like I had two heads today, because clearly this sweater is like not appropriate for November. But if you've got your tree up and your lights up, then like, are you allowed to wear Christmas sweaters on November 3rd?
I thought you're an L.A. Chargers fan or something.
That's what our friend Cosmo said in the building, too.
Because in your mind, you're like, you could not possibly be wearing a Christmas sweater on November 3rd because that would be ridiculous. So let us know. Is your tree up?
Were you sure people put their lights up and just haven't left them up all year and finally
exactly?
That's true. And oftentimes I will put mine up early because I try to find like a warmer day to put them up. Or I don't put the lights up, but I think it's nicer to put them up in the warmer times. And then you just don't turn them on until like after Thanksgiving, because respect for the turkey, right?
We also have some fine advertisers who specialize in coming to your house to put your Christmas lights up for you.
We sure do. Salter Lawn Service will put up some really nice ones. They've got some photos on their Facebook page. You should check it out. They do a really great job. And actually, I think they did my neighbors, which is why theirs looked so nice. So
I love that you have this conspiracy theory that your neighbors are specifically trying to troll you.
I mean,
they went through all that effort just to go watch this.
Okay,
it's good to know they're a listener then, at least. I mean, they're listening to the show. So
the other question then is, are you already watching holiday movies? Because Hallmark starts their countdown. Is it still, do you have to wait till December, or are you already
They started
going?
in October.
Oh,
they
my
started
goodness.
Hallmark started its holiday movies in October. The countdown to Christmas. Every weekend, another movie.
And there's actually a new one coming out that Hallmark did that was filmed in Herman, I believe.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I am not a holiday movie kind of gal.
Of course not.
It's not.
Because it brings people joy.
Yes.
And you're against anything that brings people joy.
It's not my thing. But yes, there's a holiday movie that was shot in Herman. Apparently it premieres next Wednesday on streaming channels.
Yeah.
And
And I think they're doing a red carpet premiere maybe in Herman this weekend or maybe even today. I'm not sure what day it was they were talking about it.
I love that. I love when we can like see on the big screen places that like we know and that we love, though, honestly. And I think Herman is so beautiful. I've had the opportunity to visit, I think, twice this year, and you just forget that these little hidden gems in Missouri are just a short drive away. And I was just blown away. You come into the city and you just come over the river, you see everything. It's stunning. So I'm excited. I'm going to watch this one. Hannah, you're watching holiday movies you've already started. I know.
Well, so here's the thing, though. I like Christmas movies, but I'm not a big Hallmark movie fan. I know that's a hot take, but I'm not real into the mushy gushy.
Yeah, they're awfully sweet.
Yeah, I'm more of like an Elf fan.
Okay.
Will Ferrell. That kind of Christmas movie.
All the Hallmark
Christmas
movies
Vacation.
All the Hallmark movies have the exact same plot line, and at like 20 minutes to the end of the movie, you're gonna have the breakup scene, so that at the very end you can have the get together scene, and everybody can live happily ever after.
There's a mathematical formula.
There seriously is.
I think you've watched too many holiday movies. All right, so Mark, you sent me this article yesterday, and I thought that like we had agreed on what land was in what state and like what the states were. I had no idea that apparently you can just agree to like secede or take on, like, I understand local government annexation. I didn't know that was like really a thing for states still. And so I guess there's a county in St. Louis who really doesn't like being near St. Louis, who really doesn't like being a part of Illinois. And they have been talking about trying to become part of Missouri, such that, like, you know, all the things that I have that are cutely Missouri shaped would then be inaccurate because Missouri's border would change. Hold on. I just can't.
That's the real reason we can't change anything is because of the home decor.
Well, we could always swap. We could trade St. Louis to Illinois and get like Southern Illinois, which is just like Missouri, back in return, and we'd probably all be happy with it.
Right. I mean, can we vote someone out?
We have to get somebody to take them. That's the problem.
But so tell me more about.
Nobody wants St. Louis.
Yeah, tell me more about though this Metro East County. I think it's actually Jersey County.
So it's north of St. Louis. It's in the St. Louis metro area. It's up north. It's a small rural county. It's overwhelmingly conservative. It's interesting when you drive up to Chicago, if you go through some of those counties, when Pritzker was running for office, the only sign you saw for miles, sign after sign after sign, was Pritzker sucks, because they hate the Democrats so bad in that part of Illinois. They've talked about seceding. The Illinois Attorney General said, yeah, thanks for stopping by the booth. No interest in allowing you to do that. But this has been a topic that's been discussed in a bunch of states. Northern California has talked about seceding. Eastern Oregon actually has an active process right now about seceding. They want
1860, we had a bunch of states do that, didn't we?
But they want to do it the non-Civil War way. If you get both states to agree, so if one state agrees that parcel can be, and if parcel could be half the state, I guess, if agrees to send it to the other state and the other state agrees to take it and Congress accepts it, then that's an acceptable change of property. This
doesn't compute. And then some of the times they're talking about, well, maybe we just break it into 2 states, which hasn't been, other folks have been wanting to add states for years, and that hasn't been very successful.
Yeah, they've talked about splitting California into 2 or 3 states has been talked about.
Texas wanted to just go completely.
Yep. And then, I think the last time we actually took an existing state and split it was West Virginia was created out of the 6 or 9 counties that were actually in Virginia. And that was the result of the Civil War, because the rest of Virginia supported the Confederacy, and those 6 or 9 counties supported the Union.
I guess the Illinois Attorney General came out with an opinion that says that the county doesn't have the authority to secede. But you said if both states agree and Congress agrees, then it's a done deal?
Yeah, if the government of both states through their normal process agree to change territory and Congress agrees, that's an acceptable change.
I saw yesterday that the Department of Economic Development is out with like a new campaign, and it's called Missouri Loves Company, which I thought was a cute play on, the normal saying. But I don't think they meant it like this. But we could just like go, and we're always talking about growing our population, that we need to bring more people here. So now we can just go out and start grabbing neighboring counties.
I think there's only 21,000 people in that county, so it's not exactly a huge population spike.
Do we get some of their policies too? Like if we grab some part of Illinois, can we have sports betting? That would be really nice.
She's thinking it through.
Yeah, that feels like a stretch.
No,
Marjorie Taylor Greene, wasn't she the one from Georgia who talked about, what was her line? About a national divorce, talking about this whole kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure Georgia would secede in that circumstance.
How many? Yeah, I mean, how many signatures do I need in Southern Boone to secede from Boone County? Can I split my county?
Better run that by your trolling neighbors.
Because I'm sure there's some folks in Southern Boone who really wish they were part of Cole or Callaway or somewhere else.
I haven't looked at it, but I'm pretty sure that you can get a bill passed through the General Assembly to change county boundaries.
Really?
Yeah.
You could go door to door with your petition in Ashland, Stephanie.
That didn't go well for the last people who tried that.
The problem is, does anybody want Southern Boone County to come to their county? Because it's become Columbia South.
Yeah.
It's become like this liberal mecca that's halfway
kind of got
between
divvied
Jeff
up in
City
the
and
congressional cut-up map, didn't it?
Rude. No way.
I have to agree with Mark.
Y'all, you're just still mad about how Ashland's bigger than Centralia. All right, let's go to no, there was okay. I mean, seriously, there's a lot of mid-mo rivalries here. I think we're having Scott Faughn on, by the way, at 7:10, and he'll chime in about how Blair Oaks is so good at football and how we all lost, which There's not.
Well,
a lot
that's
we
right.
can
Blair
say
Oaks
there.
and Southern Boone tonight in district semis.
Yeah, it didn't go well for us the
Good
last
luck,
time.
Eagles.
Although, yeah, we'll be cheering on the Eagles, but it's like almost unfair that we have to face them every year. Like, can't they? You know, when you play like softball, if you win the championship every year, they bump you up from like the D League to the C League. Can't we bump up Blair Oaks at some point to just like if you win the state championship so many times, you should be forced to play in the next
Well, football's
division up.
not softball, and there's no double elimination, is there, Mark?
No, but I guess if Southern Boone keeps losing enough to Blair Oaks, maybe you could get relegation and you can drop down another class.
Because we do well against everyone else. It's just
I know I have many not so fond memories growing up in Centralia of having a really good football team, and you get into playoffs and it always ended at Blair Oaks.
it's something in the water or something.
Sounds
there.
like green with envy.
Yes.
Very good.
But
Rude. All right. Okay. So, also there was a big court case. Was it yesterday that it came? 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Coming out of was it Western District or Supreme
Cole
Court?
County Circuit Court. Talking about the MoDOT case?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. It's been a long week. There's been a lot of really important cases. So abortion was in the Western District earlier.
Yep.
We've had a different abortion case that got filed in Circuit Court, but this one is still at the Circuit Court level. Now we did have a big conservation case earlier this year, which kind of touches on some of the same issues, but this one is, it's Judge Cotton Walker out of Cole County. Tell me about that case, Mark.
So the question is, MoDOT gets its money from the state road fund. It's got dedicated tax revenue. I think it was last year. John, you might be able to correct me here. I can't recall what year it was. They decided to do a pay raise for all their employees. The legislature did not appropriate funds directly for a pay raise, and MoDOT basically said, thanks, but we get to do whatever we want. There was a lawsuit filed, and
I think that was 2021, if I'm not.
2021.
The whole thing surrounding the gas.
And it got filed. They argued the case. Then the Supreme Court took arguments in the conservation case, which was analogous to it, although not exactly the same, but very close. So they suspended until the Supreme Court issued its opinion in May. Then they re-argued the case, and Judge Walker just came down and said, MoDOT gets to do whatever they want with their own funds, and the legislature does not have control.
And that's why I think this is really interesting, because yesterday the headlines were basically, well, MoDOT people get a pay raise, and it is so much more than that. And so they basically can override. I don't think the legislature is happy, Mark.
They're not happy. We have now, in the last, 4 months, created 2 new branches of government. We have the legislative branch, the executive branch, the judicial branch, the conservation branch, and the MoDOT branch, all of which have totally independent powers, apparently, that can't be controlled by another branch.
Because traditionally, the legislature would have the purse strings. And here, the courts have said, actually, no, you have no control. And I think really interestingly for us in Mid-Mo is we see this also at the local government level, oftentimes with parks funds or other dedicated funds, tourism funds maybe, and you get these boards over those pots of money and they say, hey, city government, you can't touch our funds. And that debate is constantly raging about how much the elected officials have control when there's this separate, when voters voted, they dedicated the funds, and you've got a board over that. So do you think this is going to...
Same thing we see at the State House when we talk about the Department of Conservation and their commission.
Yeah, conservation now is the single largest landowner, I think, in the state of Missouri. Nobody ever anticipated that.
officially new song. They found some audio on a cassette tape.
Tapes of John
what?
Lennon.
Right. Old cassette tapes, and then used AI to recreate this new song. It released, I believe, on Wednesday or Thursday, but you can check out the audio now. Very exciting. Mark's a big Beatles fan. So are you going to be jamming to that in your car? I guess crying?
I listened to it yesterday when it came out. I enjoyed it. It's interesting hearing John Lennon as a young man singing, and then with the overdub by Paul McCartney as a, what is he, 80 years old? Singing. So it's really interesting because Paul McCartney used to have that very young voice that you're used to with the older Beatles songs, and then to hear kind of the older voice laid over it, it's really interesting.
And I think I'm more likely to tune in. There's a short film of how the song was actually put together, and I'm way more likely to watch that than this Herman Hallmark Christmas movie this weekend. But
I would agree with that 100%.
I think that sounds really interesting. Well, okay, something else we need to be watching for Tuesday, and I know for a lot of you, you're like, why are we talking about elections in other states? But I do think it matters. Not everyone has an election schedule that looks like Missouri's, and it gives us kind of a preview into what we might expect and how people are feeling, how the country's leaning. And there are some really big elections coming up on next Tuesday. So you'll be hearing about them, I'm sure, this weekend. So first of all, we've got the Kentucky governor's race, Mark.
Yeah, so the Kentucky elected a Democrat governor 4 years ago. It was kind of a surprise. It's a very heavily Republican state. And he went through COVID and was viewed very popularly.
That's wild.
Republicans had a pretty tough primary. The attorney general, a black attorney general, David Cameron, won the primary. He was way underwater for a long time. Really looked like it was going to be a bad result. They have gone up on the air tying the Kentucky governor to Joe Biden. Joe Biden, and his name's Andy Beshear, back and forth, phasing him in and out, talking about policies. And there is a poll out this morning that now has that race as tied.
Wow.
And with leaners, the Republican winning. Now, I don't know how much I invest in one poll, but if that were to occur, it would be, I think that would actually on a national level be a huge event, because that would show how much of a millstone Joe Biden actually is when you have good candidates on the ballot.
Interesting. No, so you think perhaps would that take Joe Biden down? Do you think the Democrats would say, all right, he's got to go?
I think they sure would be awful nervous if they lost that. I can't imagine that anybody in the Democrat Party would see that loss from a guy who was that far ahead being anything but disaster.
Yep. And also we've got
You know, Mark, I think it was a very good Cold War between the legislature and conservation and MoDOT. I think this question was better off not answered, honestly, where they had to be a little worried about the legislature, but there was if they went too far, they would go to court and settle it. And I thought that tension was pretty good, because I'll tell you, the last thing you want is bureaucrats with no oversight running amok. You may not like politicians. It's only because you haven't met a bureaucrat. And I think it'll be very bad. I thought I thought it was a good tension pull. I think when the bureaucracy is unchecked, it will be terrible. I think the legislature won't push back on the courts because the right wing of the party that has a hard time raising money has figured out that they can raise money from trial lawyers. And the trial lawyers very ingeniously have the best lobbying effort in this state in the last 5 years, have switched around and now support your most right-wing candidates who now support your right to sue. You can argue whether that's conservative, liberal. I was brought up to say it wasn't conservative, but that's changing all the time. So I think the legislature will do nothing about the courts over this. And I think if I had to guess, they're going to throw a fit. They'll start with MoDOT because conservation still has some hunting and ties and there's some Second Amendment issues you can weave into that. So I think they'll start with MoDOT, giving them some grief, and it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Patrick McKenna, I think, runs a good department, but he probably shouldn't be over customer service or government relations. But I guess now he doesn't have to, right? It doesn't matter anymore.
Now
we'll see.
Yeah, we're hearing that, the Senate caucus this week, and we're hearing that several members of the caucus formerly known as the Conservative Caucus decided just not to show up. I don't think they were busy. I think that was a statement. What are you hearing from the fallout of that, and how does that foreshadow what's coming in January?
Well, I think there's a bunch of different factors there. I think it's a very logical thing for someone like a Mary Elizabeth Coleman to say, this is not worth my time. You have to drive all the way to Branson for a meeting where essentially you just tell the members of your caucus that hate your caucus what you're going to try to do so they can have 2 extra months to prepare to stop you from doing what you want to do. Jill Carter, she had a family commitment. They moved the date of this caucus. It's usually a little later. They moved it up, I believe, and so she couldn't make it as a family commitment that she told everyone. Some of this information gets put out here because some lobbyist goes to a dinner and leaks it out, unnamed source, and then somebody else newsletter rumors it. So some of this is not accurate or real. Then you had a couple. Bill Eigels running for statewide office. He's a busy guy, and plus, I don't think he needs 2 extra months to stop his caucus from passing things. He's very good at it. So I think it's also a testament. This will be the last one in Branson, I think. I mean, Mike Moon, who's right there by Branson, didn't go. It is a long drive for Cindy O'Loughlin from Shelbina to Branson. I think you're going to see something at the lake next year, probably better attended. And I think really, while I'm not sure it's Caleb Rowden's fault, the majority of it, but I think you're going to see when Eigel and Rowden are out of the Senate, it'll be the last vestiges of this leadership fight from what will then be 6 years ago. And I think people will get along better. So I wouldn't read too much into it other than caucuses are worthless. They're all senators. They shouldn't caucus anyway.
I really hope you're right. Well, we're reminding people that we are taking winners and losers of the week nominations for that. We're going to do that about 8:30. Text us at 573-874-9390. And I want to hear from you, Scott.
Blair Oaks?
No, no,
You
the
should admit
Eagles.
it.
The Eagles. They hung tough through the first half last time. I'm still cheering for the Eagles
you covered
tonight.
it right there. You got a winner
my
and a
gosh.
loser right there. You got
You know
Blair Oaks
what?
and you got the Eagles.
Stephanie, you should come up with winners, losers, and participation trophies. A Boone County participation trophy that you can give to people that try for the first half. I think that would be very fitting.
Oh, man.
Rude. All right. You are not invited back, by the way. No, really. You got any, you've got a big show coming up on Sunday. If people tune in, who are we going to see? And yeah, who are your winners for the week?
You are going to see Ashley Awney, who is running to be the new House Minority Leader. She's very talented. It'll be fun to get to know her. She has a real great energy that just kind of exudes out. Had Ryan Johnson on, Kerry Engel, Terry Thompson, a great legislator, banker over at Lexington, and then Manny Abarca. He's the number 2 guy on the Jackson County Council. We had a good time. We talked all things. I think probably the winner, Holly Rader, has had a heck of a week. She watched one of her opponents have some problems. Cinder Ronder will be very interesting to see if he stays in this race. And then if she wins, Jay Ashcroft said he was going to quit if the abortion stuff passed. So if you're her, I mean, just go buy some lottery tickets, right? I mean, life is all looking up for Holly Rader.
Hey, it's happened before. All right. Well, always great visiting with you, Scott. I'm sure we'll be texting later, trash talking or something about this big game. So
You guys should put money on the game.
No. Well, Scott is, running a sports betting ring apparently out of his studio.
Yeah, he
so.
wants to name it after
totally
us, I
illegal,
heard,
but-
too. So
Yeah, I tried, and then I was like, I don't know if they're going to like that. I better take two on this name idea.
Yeah, don't name it after us. All right. Thanks for joining us. Coming up
Thank
next.
y'all.
And always late for some reason when we have Scott Faughn is What's Hot with Hannah.
Well, Florida man. Need I say more?
Again. All right. That's
Again.
coming up. It's time for What's Hot with Hannah. It's 7:25-ish.
Nice of you to finally let me do my segment, Stephanie.
Scott.
What was it Marsh said right before the break? We should just blame Scott every time.
For sure.
You can just be the scapegoat of that one now. All right, Florida man got busted this week. He was the butt of the joke. No pun intended. A Florida driver was given a ticket by some sheriff's deputies in the state of Florida because the driver was told that his truck too closely resembled a Border Patrol vehicle. It's a white Chevy pickup. It's got a green stripe down the side of it, and it's got some lettering on the bed of the truck. But it doesn't say Border Patrol.
Close.
It says Booty Patrol. So it's totally just a joke. You know, the driver is not trying to bust anyone. It's a truck that they had made for a special music video, and they just kept the stickers on it, I guess. But yeah, Florida driver gets slapped with a fine for driving around a truck that says Booty Patrol.
Love it.
Only in
But I think it gets a bad rap, but it's brought the Beatles back to life for this song. Of course, they found snippets of the song on a cassette and were able to kind of recreate it. There's a short film you can watch about the actual production. And it gives me hope because every time we get a new Taylor Swift album, of course, we just got 1989, last week? The Swifties are going to come for me for not knowing the exact release date, but they every time we get a new Taylor's version Taylor Swift album, we get songs from the vault. And so you get...
And it's awesome.
It is awesome. The vault songs are some of the best. And so you get a little peek into the window of her life because typically they are from around the same time that the album was. They are just songs that didn't make the album. And of course, she's still alive to, record those and release those. But that woman is a prolific writer. In videos, you see all of the journals she has and the scribbles she has. So it gives me hope that Taylor Swift will live on forever, that even when she's gone, AI will be able to recreate her voice and we will get these re-releases of songs from Taylor's vault, which they'll have to be called something else.
Well, and maybe her and Travis Kelce's babies will
there you go.
Continue on the family legacy.
The new Beatles.
Or they'll be like they'll go out into space and be in vitro fertilized up there, so we can have space Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce babies.
They could be like the Kelce 5.
But so I see all of the possibilities with AI, and I thought this comment by Elon Musk yesterday, who of course AI powers a lot of his inventions or his companies, but apparently he was in the UK yesterday and told Rishi Sunak that AI is going to take over most people's jobs. And I typically disagree with that, but I had a weird experience yesterday where I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, the Reason Roundtable.
The Wake Up in Missouri podcast?
Of course. We've got an app. You can check out all of our podcasts, and you can also download them all in your favorite podcasting app. I do like to play back when I happen to miss Wake Up Mid-Missouri, but I also like to check out a weekly podcast by Reason Magazine. It's called The Reason Roundtable, and their editor, Catherine Mangu-Ward, was saying, hey, we are starting a new podcast, and it's by Robot Catherine. And I'm like, huh? Because I haven't, in my day-to-day life, I haven't really seen anyone use AI to the extent that they're doing it. So I checked it out. She said, we sent my voice to the robots, and now there's a robot version of me that sounds just like me. And this podcast, Reason, they write a magazine, so most of their material are just long-form articles. And so the robot is essentially Catherine's voice reading articles that otherwise would appear in the magazine. And I was like, there's no way. And I tuned in, and I am shooketh by this.
Like, would you know that it was AI like from listening to it if you didn't already know?
So all we know now is that she may not have been on the Reason Roundtable for years because it's all been AI.
What is it? She said sometimes the robot puts the emphasis on the wrong syllable. And so, but I listened to a few minutes and I did not hear that at all. It sounds, I mean, if you didn't know, you would definitely be a little bit confused. And so we talk about what careers AI might replace. A lot of, people are saying copywriting and all of that. And, from Hannah's like, oh no. But from the audio world, I thought this is really great from the perspective of like an audiobook, right? I've watched creators go in and have to tape their own audiobook. And I'm thinking if they could record your voice and read it, I think that would be really, really interesting.
But you miss emphasis and you miss, I think if you're reading a book or if you're reading something, you might say a pause somewhere to make an emphasis on the next word. And when you hear somebody do it through AI, and I listened to that, you sent me that clip too, and I listened to some of it, there's no emphasis on anything. It's all just read. I mean, it sounds exactly like Catherine does, but it's read. It's not emphasized. And
I'm waiting for 2.0.
Well, and my favorite part about her on the podcast is her personality and just knowing things about her. And they often refer to her as like kind of like me, where like she doesn't have any feelings and she's kind of like a robot and she hates dogs. And so, but I just so much enjoy her laughter and her personality on her, on her podcast and her interacting with others. And you get none of that from Robot Catherine. And so I think as much as Elon is saying it's going to take over all of our jobs, I disagree.
But don't worry. Joe Biden is here to save us. He issued an executive order, 100+ pages long, declaring it a possible national security threat. And now you know that anything you're worried about, the government is here to protect you from. So it's all safe.
Speaking of Elon, Steph,
Yes.
did you see what he did a couple weeks ago?
I don't think so.
He made an offer to your favorite Wikipedia.
Oh, I did.
You did see this? John, did you see this?
Yes. Left field.
Yes. Elon Musk offered the owner of Wikipedia $1 billion with a B dollars.
Does he have that anymore? Because Twitter's lost like a lot since he purchased it.
He's got
Bitcoin.
I think he's valued at about 280 billion.
Wow.
Well, so that, I mean, 1 billion's just chump change, right? But he offered Wikipedia $1 billion. I don't even know if I can say it. If they would change the W at the beginning of Wikipedia out for a D. So just think about that one for a second.
Good.
Yikes. What on earth? He is just a bizarro character. But I think, I mean, so how are we? Like,
He
back
got
to
a
the
response
AI.
from Wikipedia
What'd they
saying,
say?
We're not for sale.
Just for a day? I mean, they're like, Wikipedia is constantly asking me for money. I'm on there all the time and they're like, hey, if you just give $1, if everyone who uses Wikipedia gives $1, we could fund. Take his money. Do it. Why wouldn't you?
Oh, it's the pride through authorship and all that other stuff. And the fact that if you actually made that change, you probably get blocked from 90% of the search engines.
Oh yeah, if you start if you were to Google that, you would probably get in some hot water. And they're very particular, even about changes and who can edit and how these whole.
Can you
things
imagine
happen.
like a middle school student said, "Go look on Wikipedia with the D to check that out."
Oh no.
Well, and Steph,
It'd be even better if they changed WikiLeaks to the D.
Oh my gosh. Oh, we're gonna have a tough time recovering from that. All
some
right.
interesting Wikipedia stats. You know, I love to crap on Wikipedia.
So
just
Hannah
'cause-
was told that she couldn't use it in school.
Yeah,
Like, it wasn't a real thing.
all through school and college, we were told you could not use Wikipedia as a source because of the edit feature.
No.
But some stats from Wikipedia, they're saying that they have over 25 billion page views every single month and over 44 million page edits a month.
You can't use it as an authoritative source.
I use it-
It's a great place to go get information and get an understanding and then check on your own to verify some of the stuff. It's kind of like using the hot take off of Twitter as a fact. A hot take off of Twitter might be a fact. It also might be garbage, and you have to check it before you do.
Sort of like when we played with Chat GPT early on and tried to write some news stories, and it came up with some real outlandish things. Plus Hannah's bio with her multiple children and
There's a name for that. They said it likes to hallucinate, and I'm like, what good is like a factual robot that hallucinates? That's just, I mean.
So what happens if the AI robot during the course of reading the script starts hallucinating?
Right? They're not replacing us. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, when we searched for me on ChatGPT, they said I was a member of like the Black Journalists of America Club.
Wow.
And I had a journalism degree, and I had multiple children. Yeah, it was a little wonky.
This is that secret life you've never told us about, right, Hannah?
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think the important point, though, about Wikipedia, Mark's right. I actually use it a lot. You can go there and, you know, we say this a lot with court cases. All the good stuff is in the footnotes. In Wikipedia, most of the good stuff is in the footnotes because in order to edit it, you have to have a citation to something. So when you see the main script, if you look at the footnote, oftentimes it gives you a source, and then you click on that source, and that might be an authoritative, a source of some actual real information. And so I find it helpful. And the other thing that people don't know a lot about, but I really appreciate, especially for listeners of this show, is this thing called Ballotopedia. It came out many years after Wikipedia, and it has just enormous amounts of information. So if you're looking for even, past percentages for Missouri, if you're looking for information about ballot measures, information about other states, information on a specific topic, it's not perfect and you need to verify, but it is a really good starting place for people who are trying to learn about politics or issues or candidates. It's great.
It gives a lot of value to be able to find out who voted on what back in what year and what the language of some of those things were when we're doing initiative work. It's fascinating. You can you can Ballotopedia your name, and if you've appeared on a ballot, or you can find yourself on there. I mean, it's just a really robust platform. But those are around for other areas too.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's the nature of technology, is it's allowing us more access to information. Not always accurate information, but more information.
I still think Elon should have. I think Wikipedia should have taken Elon's money. All right. Coming up next. Well, first of all, we were getting some jobs numbers out today. We got those shortly.
Yep, like finding a noodle in the haystack. Chinese food company, it turns out, has broken the Guinness World Record for the largest cup of ramen noodles by cooking up 112 pounds of what they call instant luo sifoon. The Guangxi Food Technology Company had to find a 4-foot-tall pot to cook up a serving of luo sifoon, which is boiled rice noodles in a soup of stewed river snails and gamey, well-aged pork bones. The poopy-smelling soup, which also contains vinegar, chili oil, peanuts, dried tofu, and old bean curd sticks, gets its famous fecal-like odor from the sour bamboo shoots they put on the top of it. The world record of this stuff had to be served up to employees of the company's cafeteria because apparently there were no starving college students nearby. So now you know the rest of that disgusting story.
Sounds like that's what they would be feeding the Uyghurs in their camps.
Yeah, you had me at ramen noodles, John.
Yeah,
and then
until
you ruined it.
Until the stinky odor. Why on earth? I once went to, where was I? I was in Seattle, and I showed up at this bar, and they said, "Hey, we got this new beer. It smells like marijuana." And I was like, why? Why would we make something that's usually very enjoyable smell skunky, and why would I want to order that?
And 3 beers later, Stephanie was very mellow.
And I thought...
and then the appetizers came out.
Like, I am in Seattle, so I should have just known that this was
big
coming.
delicacy in many Asian countries, what they call stinky tofu.
Yeah, this soup would be
all
good,
kinda
except I
spoiled.
wish it smelled like fecal matter. Like, no one has ever said that.
I'm just impressed you're able to pronounce all those Chinese words,
Yeah,
John.
There you
That's
go.
impressive.
Yeah, but would any of us know if he was mispronouncing them?
Exactly.
Honestly.
Rob, I'm going to check Wikipedia, which people have.
All I know is foon is noodles in Mandarin. I know that.
Can you plug it into AI and have it speak it in somebody's voice?
There you go.
Probably. Robot John coming up next. We did get a text from Tim that said it should be called Wokepedia. They're very left-leaning, just like the new dictionaries. I would not disagree, Tim. It can have its slants, I think.
I do have a question, though. How can a dictionary be, like, left-leaning?
That should be a Wiktionary then, right?
And you know, the dictionary has been coming up and saying, like, this is the word of the year. Which one releases that? And they add new words, and it's always some really woke, left-leaning new word or
slang or something.
Well,
But I mean, if that's what people are searching for, I don't
they
know.
tweak definitions
Yes.
to make them steer one direction or another. They use examples in some of the dictionaries as how words used, and they use those with woke context too. It has gotten to infect what used to just be a reference book.
It's terrible. All right, we are wearing I'm wearing a silly sweater today. Y'all are wearing red, but I am participating in the red. Why do we wear red on Fridays, Hannah?
We wear red on Fridays to remember everyone deployed, and I threw Mark under the bus earlier this morning because he was a little upset that we're wearing red today of all days. And why is that, Mark?
Because we play Georgia tomorrow. Mizzou plays Georgia. It's the biggest football game we've had in years and years and years, and Georgia's colors, red.
So he is wearing red today.
But I do have my Mizzou shirt on underneath, just as my own protest measure.
Spoken like the true Mizzou football dad that he is.
That's right. And I am wearing a silly Christmas sweater because all y'all say that you can put up your Christmas lights and Christmas trees now. But if I walk around in a Christmas sweater, you guys would, say that this is too soon. So where do you draw the line? If you can put up the rest of your Christmas stuff, I'm going to wear a Christmas sweater.
So you're basically leaning into us trolling you is what's happening.
I'm trolling you back.
Oh, okay.
Is what I'm saying. But I'm also wearing red. We also want to encourage you to support and tell us a story and say thank you to the veterans in your lives, be it your dads, your sons, your neighbors, your friends, your grandpa. Tell us your stories by getting on our websites. We are going to share these stories in rotation as we approach Veterans Day next Saturday. The form is both on the Eagle website and the KWOS website, and that is brought to you by All Seasons Roofing and Allstate Consultants. So we celebrate every Friday by wearing red. We always encourage you. You can wear red along with us. Send us a picture of you wearing red. We love that. But as an extra special bonus, we would hope that you would submit a story of the veterans in your lives. Also, a little bit of stuff coming up. We are going to have the Missouri Governor's Mansion on at 8:10. They're doing some really cool things. Have you seen their Instagram, Hannah? They're like kind of taking us a peek. I saw a picture of their laundry room. They had a video of how much laundry they do at the Missouri Governor's
Yeah, their
Mansion.
Instagram is pretty cool, unlike other elected officials. but
Oh,
that's maybe for later.
there are some people that could use work on their Instagram for sure. For sure. So I'm excited to chat with them. And then also, I wanted to let y'all know on Monday, we've got friend of the show, Jennifer Bukowski, in co-hosting with me. I know you hear her a lot on Gary Nolan. And whenever there's any sort of crime or trial, I can't wait to get her take on the Sam Bankman-Fried stuff. Also, that Alex Murdaugh case, there's some weird stuff going on with the jury, and I want to hear from her on that. She's always got really interesting insights.
And they got that guy who just got arrested for a murder 20 plus years ago, and be curious to get her thoughts on how you try a case that's 20 years old.
Yeah,
Guy out of a vase.
And of course, Jennifer and I will be here to break down the Southern Boone and Blair Oaks game, as well as the Mizzou game and whatever other games are this weekend, because, we're really into the sports ball.
Centralia and Moberly.
Is that game tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, and the Jeff City Jays are playing tonight, John?
They are.
Thing the heck with you.
We are taking nominations for winners and losers. We're getting some good
I got
ones.
one.
All right, that's at 573-874-9390. So we hope you will give us a text, and we're doing that at 8:30. But now we are joined by Tami Holliday. She's with Friends of the Missouri Governor's Mansion, and they've caught my eye because I'm a big Instagram girl, and I love my Instagram, and they've been taking us kind of behind the scenes on that page. And there's a couple of different entities involved with the mansion. So first of all, Tami, I thought maybe you could just tell us a little bit about how your group works with the other groups involved there at the mansion.
Sure. Thank you for having me this morning. Our organization is a nonprofit 501c3 organization that was started back in the 70s as a way to preserve the treasures inside the mansion, the First Lady portraits and some of the furniture and some of the other artifacts that have been given to the mansion or they purchased. But we work with the state of Missouri and the First Family and their staff to just try to maintain the mansion so that it's there for generations to come. So we try to coordinate on events and projects as they come up and as needs arise in the mansion.
So Tami, it's such a beautiful building. The mansion's got so much history in it, but they're always having to do renovations to keep it up. How does that renovations kind of interact with the tours? My mom was a docent for a number of years over there during the tours.
Oh, wow.
So how does it kind of interact with the tours when you have these renovations ongoing?
Well, they kind of have to work around the construction schedules and the First Family schedule. And every First Family has the choice of when they would like to open the mansion and, what days they have open for tours. But the Parsons have been wonderful about getting the building structurally sound. And they've really made it a priority since the minute that they got into the mansion and to the administration to fix the things that need to be fixed. Over the years, sometimes there just was not any money in the state budget for any repairs to take place at the mansion. And so they have really made that a priority, and it's really been appreciated. And, they've just told the public on their websites and everything that, it's a working house and sometimes that it has to shut down for construction or other events. So they just have to try to work around that, and everybody's been really understanding.
Yeah, and it is the people's house, as the First Lady, Teresa Parson, calls it. I mean, because the people
Yes.
go there. I know the weather was not great, Tami, last week for the Parson Family Festival. Very cold and rainy, but I know people did come out. I want to follow up. And by the way, I'm glad you're there. I remember you were at DPS, Tami. I'm glad you're where you're at right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. You did a great job there. You really did. Mark asked about he asked about the history. And I just think of so many governors who've lived there. I've seen the pictures and everything. To the best of my knowledge, I'm going from memory, the only governor in my lifetime who did not live there, correct me if I'm wrong, was Roger Wilson, because he was a governor for 3 months, and the First Lady who became Senator, Jean Carnahan, I believe, stayed in the mansion. But his picture is in there, if I'm not mistaken. I know I've seen it.
I have not seen his picture unless they've got it in a different spot.
Yeah, no, I know
But,
it. I know it used to be in there for sure, unless they may have moved it to a different spot. But I don't think he lived there.
I think you're correct. I'm not 100% positive about that, but it was such a short time. There may have just been, not time for him to actually get moved in. But they may have moved his picture over to the Capitol. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
most of the families have lived there, at least during the week. Some of them would go home on the weekends if they didn't have any official duties. But for the most part, it has been an official residents of the first family since the day it was built.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
remember I was over at the Public Service Commission at a meeting, and you can view out of one of the conference rooms. You can see the mansion, and I was over there, and I was telling someone from out of town, "Oh yeah, that's the governor's mansion." And they were saying, "Does the governor actually live there?" And we saw the Parsons come out and kind of look around on the porch and have a seat. And I said, "I wasn't just making that up. Here they are."
Yes.
And they have the rocking chairs out there. It's like, I love that. That's such
Yes.
Americana.
Yeah, they added that.
They
absolutely.
do. Well, we are talking with Tami Holliday. She is with Friends of the Missouri Governor's Mansion.
Tami, going this week of Halloween just passed all. When we had our friend Rebecca Gordon, who worked at the mansion for many years, she'd come in and tell us about some of the strange, unexplainable things that had happened to people. I think the one story that sticks in our mind was an electrician who said he was talking to a little girl up on the family level of the mansion, and came down and told the staff. They said, "There's no little girl up there." And they said he went to lunch and never came back. Have you had any strange occurrences since you've been over there?
I have not seen anything, but I have heard stories from some of the staff about lights being on when the last person that had left the floor and closed up for the evening said that they know they were out, and they said they'd come back and the lights would be on, and some doors that were open that were closed, and there's some staff that swear that there is some strange events that happen in there, and of course the little girl that the electrician thought he saw was believed to be the ghost of the Caroline Crittenden that died in the mansion when she was 9. So, some people say I've seen things, I know, but I have personally not.
I know we have some folks that really love those haunted tours of like MSP, and so maybe the mansion will have to get into the haunted tours. But I do know you've got an event coming up in December, and then also there's an event for folks who might want to take a peek there around the holidays. Can you tell us what's coming up for the mansion?
Yes, the Parsons open up the mansion, and I think this has been done for quite a few administrations, for the candlelight tours, they call it. And that's going to be on Friday, the 1st of December, Friday evening, and then also on that Monday evening, which is the 4th. And basically they are letting the public come in and go through the mansion and see all the beautiful decorations that the mansion staff work so hard to put on. And every year there's a different theme. And I won't give away what the theme is this year. That's their, their thing to tell. But it's usually a glorious event. The candle lights, they dim the lights. It's dark outside. And it's just absolutely amazing. And the Parsons are usually there to greet everyone, which is not a lot of people get to say that their governor and first lady do that for the public. But they have a lot of people go through, and it's just a really, really neat tradition.
And then you've got a gala coming up?
We do. We have our big fundraiser for our organization that will be at the mansion on, we actually do it 2 nights. So it'll be on Wednesday, December 6th and Thursday, December 7th. And the governor and the first lady will host it, and it'll be a black tie event. And usually they have a beautiful, delicious sit-down dinner, and the governor and the first lady will say a few words. And we just hope that we have a really big turnout and raise some money, because there's projects to be done there at the mansion. And we really would like to get all of the First Lady's portraits. There's some that need repair. We're having an audit done on that. So that is really one of our big goals for next year.
Wonderful. And you, so for those events, how do people find out more information? And on the candlelight tours, you need a ticket, or is it just first come, first serve?
It is first come, first serve. There's no charge. You'll just stand in line outside of the mansion, and they'll just single file people through, kind of in a big circle through the first floor. And as they walk out, usually the first lady and governor are standing there to greet people as they leave and thank them for coming. As far as finding out information about the gala, they can go to our website at www.missourimansion.org. and just click events, and you can find out the details and how to purchase tickets.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tami. If you haven't already, I would tell you to go to Instagram and follow the mansion. I saw pictures of the food being prepared and pictures of the laundry and videos of the laundry room and some of the other buildings on the property. Really interesting. And I would also say the landscaping there around the Capitol and the governor's mansion has just been incredible this year. So well done.
Yeah, Sherry Childs, the mansion director, she does an amazing job and is on top of everything, and they just keep that place looking beautiful.
Well, we appreciate your work and the insights into the building that sometimes is a mystery for a lot of us this morning. Thanks, Tami.
It is. Thank you so much for having me. We just encourage people to try to visit the mansion when they can.
Thanks. All right. Well, coming up next, we are going to do business news with a twist. We're going to do the morning bell.
not so good.
Not surprised.
Only 150,000 jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 3.9%. I think it shows that the interest rates are finally starting to do what they're supposed to do, which is slow the economy down. But we'll see if get a couple of months of that. Maybe we'll see the Fed back off of the interest rates in the future. But all the stuff and the turmoil that has gone on has created all sorts of problems inside the market, and companies that have been around for years have either been bought or have gone away. And a few years ago, remember there was this little company called WeWork, and it became a startup. It was at one point the most valuable startup in the history of Wall Street.
Really?
And then their owner went a little crazy and caused all sorts of problems, and it lost some valuation. And then COVID hit, and then office space kind of stopped being very important because you don't really need office space if nobody's in the office anymore. Well, guess what?
What?
WeWork's taken bankruptcy.
Oh, no.
And everybody who's been to big cities has seen the WeWork signs all over buildings. The bigger the city, the more signs you saw. Pretty soon, I guess they'll just have a sign say for rent once again.
WeWork. Well, and I thought, I knew they'd been in trouble for a while ever since COVID. And yeah, I've been to some big cities and I see the signs and I'm thinking, is that still a thing?
I have seen them. I have never seen anybody in any of them. I knew people, particularly pre-COVID, that had rented space through WeWork, bought you could buy not just a single space, but you could buy like an account and use their spaces in any city where they had one. So if you were in Chicago for work, you could pop into the WeWork office and you would have your own space, or you just reserved it.
So for those people who might not be familiar with WeWork, it's like a co-working space. So it might have like desks, computer, a Wi-Fi, maybe a coffee bar and a printer or something.
Conference rooms. It was basically, it looked like an office space. Except for everything was partitioned, and you could use one office or a bank of offices or a conference room or if you needed the whole thing, you could use the whole thing on a temporary basis. And they popped up everywhere. And they were always in Class A office space. They were always in the most beautiful locations, the nicest buildings. But the owner was crazy, and he did so much damage to it. They got upside down pretty bad. And then, commercial real estate across the country is just a disaster right now because nobody works in offices anymore. So we're going to see that. Apple's sales declined on top of it. So we see a little pullback there, mostly out of China. Had a lot to do with China. So, the economy is changing. We say goodbye to WeWork. Maybe we'll say goodbye to Joe Biden. We'll have a better economy in a year.
I would take a crazy owner over a crooked owner. We saw SBF had a bad day yesterday. He's going to prison.
A maximum of 110 years.
Really? Wow.
How old will he be after 110 years?
And you said what did he say? He would rather go to jail than not have social media. Now he's going to have both.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really interesting thing. Is the question he got his probation revoked, or I guess he was out on bail. He got it revoked because he was trying to intimidate people using social media, which was something he had been banned from using. And, there was a discussion about he was willing to go to jail as long as he got to keep his social media accounts.
That is sad.
Could you leave him? Which would be worse? Being in jail? Which would be worse? Being in jail with social media
Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I'm Stephanie Bell. I'm joined by co-host Mark Ellinger. And before we get into our Friday favorite winners and losers of the week, if you've got a nomination, get it in. 573-874-9390. We're going to get an update here from Brian on this murder case. Brian, what's up?
Yeah, right now as we speak, Stephanie, and I'm not there, so I don't know if he's up on the podium yet, but if he's not, he's going to be any moment now. But his name is Harold Eugene Dickens. He is 64 years old. He has ties to Avaz. He has ties to Fulton. He also has ties to Williamsburg. He has been indicted for a cold case murder that John and I covered back in 2002. It was a very gruesome murder, as I recall. High profile, got covered a lot in the news, TV, radio. I know a guy named Jason Griffin was here at 93.9 The Eagle. Some of our listeners may remember him. A guy named Jeff Studley. They were the news people at that time, and they covered it. And it was never solved for decades, more than 2 decades, and it's been solved. I've linked to the indictment, our website, 93downtheeagle.com, but the indictment only provides a few details. She was stabbed to death, doesn't really give any details on what has happened, so clearly something has happened. Most likely we won't know that until trial, but he has been charged first-degree murder. Big question now for the prosecutor, Ben Miller, is will he seek the death penalty? Because he's clearly first-degree murder. He believes it was premeditated. He'll be arraigned today. More than anything else, it's a chance for the media to see him. They don't do video, so he will be over actually in the courtroom today. And what I don't know is what will happen. Probably not much of anything. He'll probably stay at a no bond, and he'll have to announce whether or not he has an attorney. But it is a big deal, and that's the second cold case Callaway County has solved in about a week. John and I talked about the one they solved about a week ago. This guy was shot to death. John and I don't remember that one at all. This one we both remember. This is
the one where she'd filed for divorce, yes, as we recall, and she was living with her 2 brothers in a trailer out south of Fulton. And then a family member hadn't heard from her for a long time and went and discovered her. And like you said, it was gruesome, as I recall, just multiple stab wounds.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And John, there was speculation at the time. I mean, just, I can tell you speculation. It could have been random. They didn't know, because there was another unsolved murder about 2 years after that that's still unsolved, by the way, in Fulton. So, yeah, that's the status of that. But they believe it is the husband that did this one.
Do they have some kind of special cold case unit or something? Because that's amazing that they would come up with 2 cold cases in such a short period of time in that small of a jurisdiction.
In that small of a jurisdiction, Mark, they don't have necessarily a unit, but it's a priority for Ben Miller. And the other murder that happened, I don't have my notes in front of me, that was a shooting case, and John and I don't remember it. And I want to say it was 1981. It was a long time ago. And that particular guy that did that is already in prison for another murder in Potosi. He's serving a life sentence from a murder out of St. Charles County. This guy, I did check.
That was the deal, with the guy. The guy's body was found over near Portland, I think, on that one.
He'd been shot to death. We don't know exactly why. The family does, because he told them. The family met with a lot of police that we know now, but that's pretty rare to bring the family in like that. But Mark's absolutely right that this is rare, but it's a priority. And Ben Miller hinted in the interview with KMIZ last night that we may have some more coming up soon, cold cases. So it's a priority. Wow. I can tell you there's an unsolved murder in Fulton in 2005. It was a lady killed in her home. It was a huge deal, and that's one I continue to check on, and authorities will only tell me it's still under investigation. So that would be one I know there's a lot of interest in.
Well, and I know people really appreciate you, Brian, and you, John, on keeping an eye on some of these things because it's really hard to keep track of some of these, especially the cold cases. One of my other favorite people to talk to about these issues is Jennifer Bukowski.
Yes.
I'm interested to hear from her what the challenges might be in prosecuting cold cases or defending now that it's been so much time since the crime has passed. So
yes.
She will be here on Monday co-hosting. So we will do that. And then also we're getting ready for winners and losers. But first, Brian, you were out yesterday, and I wanted to talk to you about this because you spent some time at Department of
Yes, I did.
Corrections, and big news.
On their staff.
Yeah, on staff. Exactly.
Not in residence, only in office.
I was not in the general population. So.
But
Yikes.
all right, fact check. All right, so but we heard that Director Ann Precythe is moving along, retiring. Any insights on that and the impact to maybe the department?
Well, it is interesting, and I know her. She did not work with me because she came from North Carolina. I was there, worked for Larry Crawford. I'm not totally surprised. She was there almost 8 years. She was there from 2017, and she's going to stay there until December. Obviously, she knows the governor's going to be leaving office, and she's ready to retire. I've heard a lot of praise for her. Like any director, when I was there even, you're going to have parolees commit horrible crimes. That's the biggest thing. And that happens. It happened under her. It happens under every director. It's just, unfortunately, some people just aren't rehabilitated. But in terms of what she's tried to do with the MVE, in terms of what she's tried to do with reentry, I've heard nothing but praise from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. You get some grumbling sometimes on a case or not. But remember, she has nothing to do with whether somebody's innocent or not, or somebody that's should be paroled. That's done by the parole board. So I'm not totally surprised. And again, she's ready to retire. But 7 years in that position, it's a long time.
That really is.
We just got word too, Brian, that somebody you did work with over there. Deputy Director Matt Sturms announced his retirement now as well at DOC.
That really surprises me because Matt is about my age, but again, he's been there. I bet it's close to 30 years.
Yep.
And he'd be eligible, and he's been in that position, and good for him. I know he and his wife. I don't believe they have children, but Matt's very well respected. I kind of thought he would take the lead in that, but I haven't seen him in a long time, so I can't really speak to. That one did surprise me. Precythe, no.
Well, the search
and
will be on.
And now for nominees for the winners and losers of the week.
All right, text us your nominations, 573-874-9390. We've got some already rolling in from Tim. He says the winner of the week is Speaker Mike Johnson. He's not afraid of sharing his thoughts and beliefs and discussing God. His speeches are awesome. Mark, who's your winner and loser of the week?
Well, I got a whole bunch of winners, all the football teams, Mizzou, the high school football programs, but I got a better one that kind of came out of the texter here. We've been having a little online texting about Christmas movies, thanks to stay in the Christmas theme. And the winner of the week is Die Hard, the undefeated best Christmas movie of all time.
That's a hot take right there.
That's awesome. Hans Gruber. I mean, it's not Christmas until Hans Gruber falls off that building.
And football related, we've got Shannon texting in saying Father Tolton football is undefeated and playing Versailles tonight in the district semifinals. Go Blazers. I will add go Eagles.
Good luck, Eagles.
All right, John, you got any winners and losers?
We got one from listener Joel who said, how about Mizzou, the only school with a Super Bowl champion, an NBA Finals champion, and a World Series champion on that. So that's kind of cool.
John, I have had that saved all morning. I have been sitting here with it pulled up.
Ready to go.
I got one loser. How's that?
Is it me?
No, it's not. It's not me either. It is Osage County Jail escapee Alex Stieferman was the guy who assaulted the jailers last Sunday night, and some person in Lynn spotted him walking down 10th Street after he escaped from the Osage County Jail, and he is back behind bars.
And that's kudos to that resident, because if people don't realize this, but Osage County didn't release the age of the guy, didn't say the race, didn't say if it was a man or a woman. We had no idea who had been, who escaped at that time. So somebody was very attentive to notice, this suspicious man walking down the street.
So winner of the week to that resident. Brian, who else you got winners and losers?
Got three quick ones. Eli Drinkwitz, the Mizzou football coach, huge game against Georgia coming up between the hedges tomorrow. It's the biggest game. I agree with Mark. Probably biggest game that Eli Drinkwitz is faced here at Mizzou. Big, and they have the opportunity. I also would nominate the Adoption Association, Central Missouri Foster Care and Adoption Association. They're doing their big gala tonight. 500 kids in foster care in Boone County, about 300 or so in Cole County. And also, I'm going to nominate a young man named Daniel. Daniel did a great job yesterday working on my computer. at Best Buy, and I appreciate him getting me in and getting it done, and he got it done in one day. Normally it takes about a week. Daniel, you're a winner of the week, and we appreciate you.
I love that. There are a lot of things to feel positive. Mark, you're looking at me like you got somebody else. You got anybody else?
I've only got a loser, Corey Bush. It looked like she was going to skate to victory. She has all the problems with her husband getting paid money. Let's call it that. And then suddenly she's got one, maybe two opponents. It's going to be
right. One of them being
tough.
one of Stephanie's in-laws, I think.
Good old Wesley Bell.
Wesley
it's a
Bell.
Distant relative, right?
Yeah, probably.
And Wesley Bell's going to be a formidable challenger, and they're going to have to raise a lot. She's going to have to raise money and didn't expect that.
Yep.
So she was planning on going out campaigning for other people. She's going to have to be in St. Louis.
She was going to go campaign for Hamas.
Well, and of course, Scott Faughn nominated Holly Rader. Of course, she has our previously announced for lieutenant governor, but this week, one of her opponents has been under some media fire, and then Bob Onder announced how he might split the vote, and then apparently Jay Ashcroft said if the abortion measure passes, he's quitting, which if she's elected LG means she's the governor. So Scott Faughn said she's had a pretty good week.
I just can't imagine. I didn't hear the quote. I saw that tweet. I can't imagine Ashcroft quitting as governor. Was he serious on that? I mean, I saw the tweet, but I never heard the audio. But I just can't imagine.
I mean, you have that election would occur, assuming it's in November of next year. The measure would become effective in December, 30 days later. He would get sworn in theoretically a month later in early January, and the first thing you have to do is say you swear to protect and uphold the laws of the Constitution of the state of Missouri and the United States of America. That's in the Constitution. He's going to have to admit, swear to uphold it. He can't do that.
His father, though, is a U.S. Attorney General. And again, I don't know the context, but his father obviously upheld his Attorney General laws he didn't agree with. But this state, I remember in 1984, they elected John Ashcroft governor and turned around and voted for Harriet Woods as lieutenant governor. Theoretically, this state could elect Jay Ashcroft theoretically as governor and turn around and support abortion. I just don't know what the voters are going to decide. It could happen.
We have often elected all Republicans across the board and voted on the left side of the issue, be it minimum wage, cannabis, Medicaid expansion.
Although that was the primary, though.
Yeah.
And Medicaid expansion failed in 106 counties, but it passed in the big cities to get it through. Right to work was the big one. That one in right to work got beat even in Holly Rader's district, who sponsored the bill.
Well, we are going to keep rolling with winners and losers. We might get
Guy.
Leftovers are on my suck list. I'm not a big leftovers girl, so we're going to stick with winners and losers. I think we're the losers here in that we are, remember how AOC was complaining that, she was going to get like $175,000 and have to live in a shanty or something in D.C.? Apparently, one of the last things Democrats did was they passed themselves an additional housing subsidy. Now they get an additional $35,000 a year for their swanky DC apartments.
That's a big difference.
Yeah. So 113 Democrats and 104 Republicans are taking advantage of the program, spending an additional $1.4 million of our money on their swanky DC apartments. So we all lose there. Mark?
We definitely lose there. Another loser, people didn't catch this probably, but Ivanka Trump.
Oh.
She did not want to testify in the trial that's going on in New York City about the Trump businesses, and she was subpoenaed. She fought it, went up to the Court of Appeals, and yesterday the court said she has to testify.
Wow.
So next week, Ivanka Trump goes on the stand in her dad's trial.
Again, we could just say every day, Trump's, maybe we just have to make it plural, Trump's in court.
Yeah.
Every day, seriously. All right. Also, I would say Kevin is texting in. He agrees with Tim, and he says the GOP House for electing Speaker Johnson. I like that he named Kamala as a loser of the week, but that's kind of every week, isn't it?
That's it. Well, and she's now the AI czar, so we're all going to lose. Once again, we're the losers because she's in charge of AI.
I don't know how that even happens. Also, winners of the week, men everywhere, because Kim Kardashian is now marketing her Skims to men as well. And women, I mean, we've been able to wear Spanx and like undergarment, like these slimming undergarments for years, and honestly some men probably could use those. And so now I don't know that they will actually wear shapewear, but I've heard the underwear is pretty nice.
Well, not only that, but Kim Kardashian with her Skims brand is now the official underwear sponsor of the National Basketball Association. Did you see that?
They have an official underwear sponsor?
Now they do. It's an official partnership for the NBA and the WNBA.
Look, the NBA will sell anything, particularly if it has something to do with China.
I mean, the best parts about it are looking at people's
a new look for
right?
Michael Porter Jr.
They sell the Spanx that have like the inserts with like the, they give you a little extra in the back. Maybe the men who are lacking could use those types of shapewear. All right. John, you got any winners and losers?
Boy, well, how about the Chiefs and the Dolphins? They're going over to play in Frankfurt, Germany, and if you want to watch it, if you have NFL Network, it's an 8:30 broadcast Sunday morning.
8:30 in the morning?
Yep.
Wow.
That's like 4:30 in the afternoon over there. So
go Chiefs. Well, we know it is a big football weekend. We will be recapping all of that on who moves on here locally when we are coming up. Hannah, you got anything?
I have a winner of the week, and it's not very specific, and I apologize. But National FFA Convention took place this week in Indianapolis, and several local FFA chapters were granted awards from the National FFA Association, like the 3-star and higher chapters. So congratulations to those local FFA chapters who got to go to convention this week and hear their name announced on stage.
That's so wonderful, and so much of that education. We heard earlier from Boone County Commissioners about some of that ARPA funding being used for the nature classroom and for some of this agricultural programming at Southern Boone. And I think some Southern Boone folks went up to that FFA thing, so I think that's really great. Oh, yeah. And last night, I want to congratulate everyone who got Woman Entrepreneur of the Year for a Mid-Missouri County. I sit on the Women's Business Center board, and a lot of us Zimmer ladies, and with Erin from Cat Country was emceeing, we recognize many of the women around Mid-Missouri who are doing